Hey everybody, I got this Bible yesterday evening and I thought, hey, you know what? I'm going to do a review this morning because it's quite an interesting Bible. Full and fair disclosure, I received a complimentary copy of this Bible from the publisher in exchange for my honest review. The Bible that I'm reviewing is the Illustrated Bible, a dramatic reading of God's story. There are the guys right there. Now, what makes this Bible different? First off, it looks like a comic book. It sort of reads like a comic book. You have thought bubbles, you have narrative boxes, and the idea of this particular Bible is to give the characters, I'll call it life, for lack of a better word right now, to engage a younger audience in Scripture. We are a very media-driven society. Videos, pictures, all of that. And the thought behind this is that if you can engage a younger reader with comics, ideally, as they get older, they will turn to a more traditional Bible. As I was going through this particular one, I noticed that I couldn't see anything that indicated to me that they went off base, took any sort of poetic license or liberties with certain things. Seems to be very factual. The graphics are very good in the sense of you get the action that you need with a lot of comics. It's not anime in style, particularly if you're more Eastern anime with weird angles and cuts that give it like a dark or an edgy look to it. They don't do that with this one, which I really appreciate. They don't cover everything, major points, creation, Abraham, Noah, etc., but you're not going to get into any sort of the minor prophets. A lot of battles that you'll find in Scripture won't be listed. It really is highlighting the key elements of man's fall, and all the way through the redemption of man, culminating with the Revelation, which surprisingly they cover. I was a little surprised that they did that. Some don't, just because it's very difficult to ascertain, particularly the upbringing that you had. Is it actually going to happen that way? Is it more poetic language to describe horrific events? I don't know. I wasn't there. I didn't see what John saw. So it could be one or the other. Now, having said all that, here's one thing that I was a little surprised, and I really want to point this out, particularly in their Genesis drawings. Maybe it's me, maybe it's not. I don't know. This is the eating of the apple there. As I went through, particularly some of the older Testament stories, I got the impression that the characters were modeled after Neanderthal, or common term, cavemen. Why is that a problem? There is, whether by training or in some cases just by osmosis, this idea that the cavemen, the Neanderthal people, were stupid. I don't have a better word for it right now. That, oh, go get food type of talk, cavemen with clubs beating up on deer or rabbits or whatever to eat. When in fact, everything that I've seen so far indicates they were quite intelligent, and in some cases, probably more intelligent than we were. If you look at the pyramids, they are built in such a way you can't put a piece of paper between them. But the technology that we have to replicate that with our laser cutters, they didn't have back then. And yet they were able to do some stuff like that, and we still have no idea how they did it. I would submit it's because they probably had a higher intelligence than we do. If you look at thermodynamics, things go from a more controlled, or I should say organized state, to a chaotic state. That's why our bodies break down. That's why we die, because at some point we have everything there and it starts to deteriorate. I would believe that human intelligence is doing that, contrary to a lot of people who think, well, we got computers and things. I think that what we're using is just the same thing in a different form. Communication has been around for thousands of years. We just communicate differently. Does that mean we're smarter? I don't know. I submit to you what Paul said, that sometimes thinking we became wise became as fools. I would think we're probably headed that direction. All of that to say, my concern is that with these Neanderthal-looking people, there's going to be that association, and the potential is that people are going to say, oh, it's a bunch of stupid idiots, a bunch of cavemen, and dismiss the Bible because it looks to people like that's how they were. They could have looked like that. That's true. But again, my thinking here, people are going to see that and go, oh, they're idiots. So why would I want to follow a bunch of idiots, even if it's nice drawings? That may or may not be the case why the authors chose those particular styles and those particular graphics, but at the end of the day, I have a concern with that. Other than that, I found everything else to be really enjoyable to read, easy to look at. Like I said, great drawings, great graphics. Didn't see anything that jumped out at me that was really bizarre, you know, Jesus floating in midair to create miracles and stuff. None of those type of things you could see with some other animations that are out there. That said, if you don't have a problem with the way they look, this is probably a decent Bible to get for your probably 10 to 12-year-old range, maybe a little more. If you have a graphics artist that just wants to look at some graphics, maybe that's be a good way too. But definitely don't use this for personal study. Definitely don't use this for your devotional. This is not designed for that at all. So if you're trying to say, oh, I'll just use this, don't do it. But for maybe an interesting perspective on what things may have looked like, this might be a good Bible for you. That's it. Catch you next time.